What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome back. This is the Fantasy Alarm NASCAR DFS podcast. I am back. Thank you so much to Ed Rouse last week for filling in for me from Martinsville. Unfortunately, I missed the race, but from the sound of it, it was another struggle in the short track package, which is actually a real shame because Martinsville is one of the special tracks on the NASCAR schedule. Matt, what were your thoughts about the race? I heard a lot of I have Twitter notifications for like Jeff Gluck and a lot of like NASCAR betting and just fantasy touts in general. And the consensus was that the short track package continues to suck.
Yeah. We're at a real tipping point. Denny Hamlin went on his pod right after finishing racing and crapped all over it and said basically NASCAR deserves what it's getting if it doesn't fix this problem. Dale Jr. thinks it's already past the point of saving the short tracks. The poll Jeff Gluck puts out was, I think, the second worst Martinsville poll.
Nice.
Or third worst? I think third worst. The only two that beat it were like the 440 lap led by Truex a few years ago, and then when it was topped by Keselowski with like 66. I think those are the only two Martinsville races that beat it. It wasn't great. You just couldn't pass. I know it seems like it because there were some different leaders, but if you actually watched it, like they would get to the, they would close in and then they'd have to drop back because you'd get way too loose to drive it even around Martinsville. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Like everybody's begging for more horsepower.
Can you do that at Martinsville?
What?
Can you do that at Martinsville?
Well, you can, because the argument is then you put things in drivers' hands with more horsepower, you have more options for either going faster or slowing down, changing, getting in and out of the throttle differently, because you have the horsepower to make up time, right? It makes, I guess, less of a difference at Martinsville, being that it's short track. But I think it would help. Other than that, I'm not sure. I'm not a technical analyst, so I don't know exactly what they need to do, whether it's to raise the car up some in the short track package, because I know why it's sucked to the ground, because they don't want the car getting airborne and flipping and all that like it used to back in quote-unquote NASCAR's heyday, because that's a safety nightmare. But on short tracks, you have very little, like there's not as much air and speed flowing under the car to make it that dangerous. So I think that might help some too, because the cars wouldn't be so stuck to the ground. But I don't know. I don't know if this week's going to be better or not, unfortunately. So I know it's confusing because it's another Auto Trader Echopark Automotive race. This is not.
It just means we're in Texas.
Yeah, this is not a Grand Prix. It's a 400. It's a Texas Motor Speedway. Dan and I were talking before recording the pod. It's the second intermediate track of the year.
Yeah,
I know Atlanta is technically still an intermediate, but it's not racing like they have the plate package, right? Vegas is the only true intermediate that we've raced so far, and we're like 2 months into the season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to be better than Martinsville, because usually Texas sucks.
This is the worst track on the schedule.
I know it's hard to say after we just witnessed, 3 short tracks. I mean, Bristol was awesome because it had tire wear and whatever. Coda was fun. And then Richmond and Martinsville were like a slope of, downhill. But then we get Texas. Is Texas going to be any better, Dan?
My gut says no, just because.
Yeah, right.
Since they did the repave within the last decade, it's had plenty of complaints. Like I think after the 2022 Texas race in the playoffs, one that I think Kyle Larson either won or he may have won 2021. That was his Cup championship year. Either way, Kyle Larson made a comment that they should just tear this thing down and start from scratch.
Yeah.
He asked Kyle Busch for his thoughts almost after Kyle Larson, and Kyle Busch said, "Go ask Kyle Larson." I think he said it best. It's just not a good track. And sad thing is like they can't really fill it either. They can't sell tickets to it. I don't know why they ran the All-Star race here a couple of years ago. It's
because it technically had a date and they wanted to make it the least impactful race date possible.
And you know what? I give them credit, and I mentioned this in my NASCAR in the Truck Series playbook. We're recording this Friday night. I said kudos to NASCAR for scheduling their worst race of the year at the same time that the Masters are going on and the same weekend of UFC 300. If you're going to run one of your worst races of the season, at least know that you're going to be overshadowed by two of the biggest sporting events of the year.
Yeah, the only better week might have been like next week when the NFL draft is. Or I guess that's 2 weeks.
Fair.
2 weeks from now is the NFL draft. But yeah, it's not. Look, I know we're supposed to be like happy-go-lucky and pumping you up for all the races. This one is always with. I've been to a race at Texas. The best time I had at Texas was, and gladly he's okay, but watching Kyle Larson catch fire.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah, I was there. I watched it catch fire in turn 2.
I thought you were referring to Michael McDowell losing control of the car and putting it in the wall.
No. That would have been. Yeah, no. Larson was okay, but watching his car instantaneously catch fire was possibly the best part of the Texas race. It's just not a good. It's an intermediate track, right? So it's 1.5 miles. It is technically a quad oval, so it's in the same shape as Charlotte Motor Speedway. So what makes it not great? Well, it's low tire wear. So there's basically no difference between old tires and new tires.
Single groove.
It's pretty much a single groove, maybe 1.5 grooves. They keep trying to put resin or PJ1 or whatever we want to call the traction compound.
I mean, the resin arguably caused 2 wrecks during practice for the trucks.
There is that. It is sloped. It's banked differently at either end of the track to kind of make it different. But it doesn't really help because you can't get into the turns differently because then you're going to wreck or you're going to screw up your speed or whatever. So it's basically a single groove intermediate with no tire wear.
Yeah.
So
congratulations if you're the leader.
Yeah, basically, right?
You know, because it's like you can almost listen to like any like NASCAR DFS show when they preview each race, and they'll say, you know, track position is so important here. You need to be running up front. It's like you don't even need to be running up front at Texas. You need to be like running first because it's if you can just take advantage of the clean air and collect those dominator points, good for you. The rest of the field behind you is kind of struggling to keep up with you and gain track position, and it just seems to produce. Now, when Austin Dillon won here a couple of years ago, it was kind of exciting just because it was almost like a 2-lap shootout to see who could win. But that
was all dictated by pit strategy because he picked the right time to get to the front. So if we look back to 2017, which would include the last 11 races at Texas Motor Speedway, 8 of the winners have come from P9 or closer to the front.
Yeah.
So that's not great, right? 3 of them have come from P18 to P24. Okay. 70% of the last 5 races, the guys who have finished in the top 10, 70% of them started in the top 12.
That checks out.
Yeah. So if you can keep the car clean and you don't speed on pit road, talking to you there, Kyle Busch, and you don't catch fire, talking to you there, Kyle Larson, you can have a pretty good day there at Texas if you qualify well. So, you know, there's that. In terms of schedule for this week, as we record this, the truck race is happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Kyle Busch is running away with it.
Well, that's kind of
shocking. I know.
Yes. Xfinity is what, Saturday afternoon?
Yes, that playbook will be up Saturday morning. I've had a long week with work. I'm very much looking forward to getting some sleep after this podcast, but we'll be up early to look at practice notes, qualifying, rewatching all of that, and we'll have the playbook up probably around 10 a.m. Eastern
And
time.
then Cup practice and qualifying is at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And then they race Sunday afternoon. So my goal is to get the playbook up by, I don't know, early afternoon Saturday. We'll see. My daughter has a birthday party, so I'm trying to get it done before I have to take her to that. If they cooperate or not.
Overall, what would you say is the approach, Matt? Because it's like we have a race coming up next weekend
Yes.
where we typically encourage people to manage their bankroll to their comfort level. It's Talladega.
It's Talladega next week. Yeah.
It's typically kind of a 3 lineup kind of weekend for me where I scale back the play. I'm more than happy to do so. But it's just like I get the itch to play more before Talladega, but then it's also Texas, and I'm just like, it's so hard to get excited for this.
Yeah. See, that's the trick. Is like it's a way more predictable track, but it's also a way less exciting track.
Yeah.
So there's like, I get it. You don't want to go nuts because sometimes excitement on these races leads you to build too many lineups and then, doesn't really pan out. I'm also probably not single entering it because, I'll play single entries, but I'm not just coming up with one lineup. I'll probably have, I don't know, 5 to 10 lineups for this race, depending on how practice and qualifying shake out. If it's more predictable, probably closer to 5. Less predictable, I'll probably have closer to 10. And then next week, we'll manage the bankroll more appropriately. But yeah, I'm with you. I get I want to play more because it's a safer race, but I also get I want to play less because I'm not really going to pay attention to it because it's not the most exciting race on the calendar.
And it is unfortunate only because we've had, 3 of the last 4 races were short tracks, and that package is very uneventful. We have
Right.
road course mixed in. We have the worst track on the schedule this year, and then we have a super speedway next week. So it just feels like we're in this kind of a wet blanket stretch for NASCAR. But let's
We got
quit.
a few weeks till we get to Kansas, and then really.
And that's going to be probably the best race, one of the best races of the year.
I mean, we already have 3 best races of the year.
I think we can pretty much lock it down that Atlanta will win that honor.
Probably. I mean, Kansas is going to have to put on one absolute hell of a show to beat that Atlanta race. But yeah, this is what we're saying. Like through 4 races, we had 3 of them were candidates for race of the year.
Yeah.
And then the next 4 races,
yeah.
Like Bristol was fun. I'll give it to that.
Bristol was good.
Coda, I enjoy because of the track. It's always fun to watch the NASCAR guys go out there on an F1 track. But yeah, man, it's. I don't know. We want to turn our attention to who we like this week because strategy-wise, it's the same as. I'm looking at it the same as Vegas, right?
Fair.
Same amount of laps, same distance. In terms of laps led, we're probably going to want 2 dominators. Maybe get away with 1 depending on who's starting up front.
It's almost not fun to lead off with Larson or Byron, but
I actually kind of like Byron a little more than Larson.
He's already got 3 wins on the season. He's won a super speedway. He's won a road course. He's won a short track. Like, go get that intermediate, boy.
Yeah. So here's. I know that the race favorite is Kyle Larson.
Mm-hmm.
As of earlier today, when I was writing the betting piece, he was going off the longest odds you could find him at was plus 425. Shortest odds I think were plus 250, which I'm not betting.
That's stupid.
I mean, I may plus 425, but Byron was next up at plus 700. I like Byron. In the next gen era, which sure, only 3 races at Texas, Byron has the best average finish in the field at 3.3. He has a win, a P2, and a P7. And then when you look at the 19 similar races, so what tracks are we comparing to Texas? Well, we're looking at Charlotte, same distance, same shape. We're looking at Kansas because it's the same distance and it's a relatively low tire wear track. Looking at Vegas because it tends to be more of a one groove. Passing is tough, intermediate.
But more tire wear.
More tire wear for sure.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at Texas. For those 4 races dating back to the start of 2021, which is when the next gen car came in. You look at those 4 tracks, that's 19 races. Byron is tied with one other driver for the best average finish in those 19 races, which is 8.7. He actually beats Kyle Larson in average finish, even though Kyle Larson has 3 times more wins in that span than Byron, but Byron has a better average finish. The guy he's tied with, by the way, Denny Hamlin.
I hear these guys are all pretty good.
They are. There's a reason why they're the top 3 most expensive dudes on DK. So I would go with Hamlin or Byron. Not the biggest Larson guy this week.
How do you feel about Brad?
Let me put it this way. I wrote him up substantially at 30-1.
You got him at 30?
That's what, according to, I am looking. I don't know if it's changed since the split.
I mean, I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying that would. I wish I could.
BetMGM has him at plus 3,000, which is 30-1.
See, like from a DFS perspective,
28-1.
if you look at from a DFS perspective, if you look at his performances in the next gen car, the 2022 race was great because he was on the pole and he finished 8th, but had 31 laps led. Last year he started P3, finished 7th, didn't lead any laps. But at the same time, like if he's showing up with a fast car, good enough to start up front, then I think that does speak to the fact that his team probably knows how to set the car up for this track. He hasn't finished outside the top 10 here since 2019 when he was with Team Penske. Even if you look at his runs in the 2 All-Star races here, he had a runner-up, and then he finished 9th in 2022. He was the runner-up in 2021. Excuse me. But other than that, like he's had a top 10 car, and frustration might be building for him because it's been over 100 races since he's had a win. But the RFK cars have been good. They've been fast. They've had speed. And I'll never say no to the price tag with where he's priced currently because, 8,200, and I know that I can potentially get a guy that could start up front and get some potential dominator points. Like I will jump all over that. And we've seen him put up 43 points, 55 points, 61 points, 52 points. Like it's almost like he.
You want to know what's impressive about the first 3 scores you listed?
Go for it.
43 came at Vegas.
Yeah.
Intermediate 1.5 mile track, right?
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix, they had the intermediate package on the car, did they not?
Yep.
He finished 4th at Phoenix. The
3rd
next
at Bristol
was Bristol, which they also had the intermediate package on the car. He finished 3rd. So, and by the way, in those races, he started 25th, 18th, and 17th, respectively. So, when you put that together with the fact that he has, you want to know, like in the next gen era, he has the 2nd best average finish in the 3 races in the next gen era.
just behind Byron, right?
Yeah, 6.3, but his average start is the best of anybody at 3.7. So
Nice.
Does he go backwards a little bit? Sure. But at $8,200, you could take him going backwards 3 spots if you're going to get some laps led and he's going to get you a top 6 finish. I don't have a problem with that one either. I quite like Keselowski. I'm not the biggest fan of Buescher this week, to be honest.
Yeah, it's
his home track. He's from Prosper, Texas. It's his home track, whatnot. But his results at Texas have not been good. His results at the similar races in the intermediate or in the next gen era also not great. Like you're talking about Keselowski in the 19 races in the next gen era at the tracks we talked about. His average start is 13.9. His average finish is 13.2. Okay.
Hmm.
Busher, his average start is 16.1. His average finish is 18.6. He has 3 top 10 finishes. Keselowski has 8. Can he shock people this week? Sure. Chris Busher could always shock somebody. I mean, he did last year when
I mean, he went
showed up.
back to back at Michigan and Richmond.
Although that's happened 2 years in a row now.
Yeah, he pulled a Harvick.
Correlation there. I don't know what's up with the balloons. Anybody else just like I just saw balloons go past me on my. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know if they translated. I might just be nuts now. I don't know.
I missed it. I had DraftKings pulled up on my screen.
Yeah, there were like balloons. Like it's happened 2 years in a row now. I said that and something. I don't know. It triggered balloons. I don't know.
It's probably like an anniversary thing.
There you go. Maybe.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, back to Busher. Not that he's going to have to really show me something in practice for me to feel comfy playing him. I know he's the cheaper RFK option, but 8,200 is still perfectly fine to just go with Keselowski. Briscoe, though, I know we're jumping. We kind of skipped a bunch.
You know what, man? It's Texas. I'm willing to do anything different to either generate excitement, find an edge. Like I know we normally go top to bottom when we do these breakdowns, but hey, like just list your favorite drivers, brother.
So Briscoe is interesting to me. I'm not going to say that I want to play him. Okay. I contemplated writing him up for some bets. There are some intriguing bets surrounding him. I think you can get him top 10 at plus 260.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Texas specifically, in the next gen car, he's got 3 races. His average start is 29th. His average finish is 10th. He's finished 15th, 5th, and 10th. In the other similar races, not great. And I will be the first one to tell you he was not good at Vegas earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Texas Briscoe shows up, he could be interesting. Could be.
I'm inclined to agree with you because I do an early NASCAR preview for Fantrax, and I did include Chase Briscoe in my early week write-up on Wednesday.
Well, intriguing.
My only knock on him from a DFS perspective was that he's historically qualified pretty well here, but yet that hasn't really like it's kind of a downer for DFS just because we do base our favorite plays on where they start, but at the same time the finishes have still been there. So yeah, like I can't really argue against you unless I'm reading this wrong. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading my own article, my own write-up wrong. My only argument against him is that he's qualified well this year.
Right.
But in his 2 Texas starts, he started P30, P31, and he grabbed top 10s in both races.
Yeah, and in 2021, he qualified at 26th.
Yeah.
He started 26th, finished 15th. He started 30th, finished 5th. He started 31st, finished 10th. He's the only guy that seems to know how to move up here. So he's intriguing. Another guy that doesn't get a lot of hubbub on intermediate tracks.
Daniel Suarez.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Okay, we're on the same page.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, he's run really well at Texas. This is a pseudo home track for him.
Yeah.
It's one of the closest ones his family from Mexico can get to. He's stated that. It's not just me. He's stated that. He's run pretty well here the last few years. I don't think he's finished worse than 12th. Yeah, he's not finished worse than 12th in the next gen car.
8th and
12th
12th.
and 8th. In similar races, he's done pretty decent. If you look back at the last 4 similar races, he's got 2 top 11 finishes in that span. So, not bad. Not bad.
Finished 11th at Vegas this year with 15 laps led.
Yeah. So if you're looking to get a hold of one of the Trackhouse guys, but you don't want to fork over the 9,200 for Chastain, Suarez is an intriguing guy, $2,000 less.
Man, Chastain's so frustrating because it's like he's going to win probably 2 races this year.
Correct. It's just which 2.
Yeah, like it tends to come out of nowhere. Like actually, I won't say that because like Nashville, he was on a lot of people's radar.
Yes.
But like Phoenix, like everyone forgets that he wins Phoenix because it was a championship race, and
yeah, he's the only championship race winner to have not been championship.
Ryan Blaney was kind of pissed about that.
He was very pissed.
Go
and he has, in Chastain's defense, he ran well at Vegas. He finished 4th, and he pulled off a P6 at Phoenix, and somehow moved up from dead last in Bristol to finish 15th.
Yeah, but it's almost like at his price tag, you do need more than just. Yeah. If he's gonna start in the top 12, you do need more than just a good finish and finishing in like PD. You do need some dominator points, and
correct.
We haven't seen it early on, so I'm inclined to agree with you that if you're going to target a trackhouse driver, you might as well just go with Suarez.
Correct. Like, so So let's lay this out. You're looking for how many points per guy here?
Chastain, you want at least. For cash games, you probably want 45 from Chastain.
Okay.
You probably want 35 from Suarez.
Right. Okay. So Chastain at Phoenix. The Shriners Children's 500. Started 12th, finished 6th, had 2 fastest laps, which gives him 45 points. He was $9,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. Flat track, 1 mile, but it was the intermediate package. So if he pulls that off, there's hope. He also has run decently well at Texas of late. He finished 2nd here last year. There's that. I know we don't want to pin our hopes on one race, but sometimes you kind of got to read the tea leaves. Anybody that you're not looking at all this week?
Not looking at. Oh.
I know this has bit me in the ass before because I've said fade people and they wind up winning, but
I don't know. Alex Bowman isn't really doing anything for me this week.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to.
Like the only thing that gets me excited about Bowman anymore is if he, for whatever reason, qualifies deep in the field.
Yeah, he does have a knack for moving up.
But it's just like, with Bowman, it's like
the others in speed.
I remember when Denny made that comment a couple of years ago about how Alex Bowman backs into wins, and it's almost like since Denny made that comment, Bowman has not backed into a win.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to get excited about Bowman, who is the number 4 driver for Hendrick.
Tell you who I'm not playing.
Go for it.
The guy who just won the truck race.
Kyle Busch. The race is still going. That's the thing.
He'll win it, assuming he doesn't get a speeding penalty on.
Corey Heim is kind of making ground, man.
All right. Well, the guy's going to finish pretty well in the truck race.
Final lap. Here we go. This is terrible for the podcast, but I'm excited.
Excitement all weekend, except for the UFC fight.
All right, they're on the backstretch. Heim is closing. Heim has seemingly the faster truck. Pockers just tweets, Busch wins the race at Texas.
Always love it when Twitter is faster than streaming. So the guy who just won the truck race, breaking news, Kyle Busch wins the truck race in the middle of our podcast. Not interested in that guy.
No?
That team has sucked at intermediate this year.
RCR has sucked a lot this
year. Yes, but he somehow led 18 laps and got 14 fastest laps at Vegas, and I have no idea how he did it because he started 21st and finished 26th.
Off pit cycle, maybe?
I guess.
I mean, I can't remember back to that race.
He finished. Everybody thought he was going to move up at Phoenix. Never happened. He finished 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Bristol is usually his awesome track. Went backwards. Was nowhere.
Do you think that's an organizational issue?
I mean,
like Austin Dillon had to make a complete change to engineer, crew chief. They've swapped around.
I don't understand why they keep breaking up Justin Alexander and Austin Dillon, because literally the only crew chief Austin Dillon's ever won with is Justin Alexander. So I mean, I would be inclined to say yes, because I've had to switch pit crew for Kyle Busch. Doesn't seem to help a speeding problem. But I don't know. It's possible that RCR is way further down the road in terms of being bad than we thought. Like, they were way worse than Roush, apparently.
Yeah.
But look, at the price tag that Kyle Busch is sitting at $9,000, I'd rather spend $500 more and take a shot on Christopher Bell. I'd rather spend $200 more and take a shot on Chastain. I'd rather go cheaper and go Bubba Wallace or Ty Gibbs or Keselowski. I don't see any reason where there's value in Kyle Busch. Unless he's starting on the pole and you can guarantee me he leads the whole first stage.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Ty Gibbs, though, because I am slightly intrigued.
Yeah, by the way, you missed his $9,000 week last week.
That's okay. I played him on his $10,000 week for Richmond.
You know what the good news is? He scored exactly the same.
Yeah.
3 points both weeks. No matter.
But the weird thing about that is that, like, when you look at we look at Vegas, we look at Phoenix, even Bristol, like we have it's almost the same argument that we just gave to Brad Keselowski. He was good in the intermediate package.
Yes.
And I think what's most disappointing about Richmond and Martinsville is that you expect Joe Gibbs Racing to be good at those tracks.
Especially like those Toyotas have been good at short track racing for a while.
Exactly. And so the fact that he kind of disappoints with back-to-back finishes outside the top 15 at the short flats of Richmond and Martinsville, I think it probably draws interest on Gibbs down a little bit. It drew the price tag down, which I do love. And Texas is a race where we've seen guys kind of come out of nowhere and get the win. Tyler Reddick did it a few years ago. Austin Dillon. Like, this wasn't even Reddick's first career Cup Series win, but it was his first non-road course win. As you mentioned, like, Austin Dillon came out of nowhere. And so it's like we're back on an intermediate. Ty Gibbs is priced reasonably, and he ran very well in the intermediate package earlier this year. Like, he led 137 laps at Bristol, led 57 laps at Phoenix, grabbed a top 5 at Vegas. I'm hoping that he comes in soft on ownership, because I will jump all over this and try to be 2 to 3 times my own exposure compared to the field.
I would agree. Ty Gibbs has run 2 next gen races. Sorry, that's Ty. Yeah, he's run 2. He's qualified well. He's kind of had some bad luck and finished worse than where he started. But circling back to Kyle Busch, he's run 3 next gen races here. Starts inside the top 10 on average, finishes outside the top 25 on average.
Jesus, that's terrible.
I mean, he has an 8th place finish, but that 8th place came from starting 3rd. So, he's. But speaking of Ty Dillon, though, who congrats to him and his wife on Twitter, I think on Thursday, that they've had a new addition to the family of 5. In his 2 races here, he's moved up 11.5 spots on average.
I'm actually happy. So we seem to be on this similar wavelength, because I have my Fantrax preview article up. We already talked about Chase Briscoe.
I'm sorry, dude, but I did not read it before the pod. I just did.
I have a sleepers and value section. I have Briscoe and Suarez in the section. At the very bottom of the article, I have Ty Dillon. arguably the same reasons. He does have 2 next gen races here. He grabbed a pair of top 20s in both Texas races over the last 2 years. He does have the new dad narrative. The only thing that worries me is that Colleague.
That car sucks so bad.
Sucks. They're so slow, and it's almost like if you play him, you are just praying for caution, for carnage, and that he avoids it.
Correct. They are so slow. It's looking like Justin Haley made the right decision.
Yeah, Justin Haley is looking like an absolute genius for moving from Colleague
to
Rick Ware. Bonkers.
It's So there's that. But yes, we're having.
It's just weird, like
mind meld this week. With the
like you get the sense that Colleague is trying to invest more in their Xfinity program because they clearly want a championship with Allmendinger back down there and trying to build up SVG, and yet even their Xfinity program hasn't been that great this year.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Sorry that I'm just chugging water, but
no, you're good.
I'm dehydrated.
I am avoiding my favorite driver this week, Jimmy Johnson.
Oh my God! How did we go this long without talking about JJ?
He's back this week. I don't know. I guess he got bored at home. I don't know. I know he's won a crap ton of Texas races. This ain't gonna be one of them. Man, I don't know. He does not look good in that 84 car.
I mean, it's weird because like I sometimes look at like the 42 and the 43, and I'm like, like John Hunter and Eric Jones, they've got some good speed. But then
I do like those two though.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson gets in the car, and it's like he forgot how to drive.
Exactly. It's like he went to IndyCar and totally forgot how to drive a stock car.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't very good at driving an IndyCar either, so there's that. I don't know, but his car number is looking more like his age now than inverse of his former car number. I do like Eric Jones, his teammate, who ran. By the way, I know he's credited with a P30 finish last year. He was running P2 very late in the race.
Who's
Kyle Larson was winning that race until chaos ensued, and he finished P31. So there's that. John Hunter seems like he's got pretty decent speed in the intermediate package as well. I just don't like JJ this week. There's zero reason to. I mean, if you want a dumpster dive, go all the way to the bottom. Ty Dillon's literally as cheap as you can get.
I hate dumpster diving in the Cup Series, but yet
I know.
I don't. Why don't I not hate Kaz Gralla? Why am I talking myself into Kaz Gralla?
I don't know.
I feel like if you play Kaz Gralla, it's like you hope he starts P34 and you just hope he finishes P30.
Yeah. But even then, I'd go $100 cheaper and still play Ty Dillon because I think
yeah, probably
got more upside.
Like Ty Dillon is the ultimate punt this weekend. Like you're not even hoping for 5x value. Like if you get 25 points, yeah, be thankful.
If he finishes the race, you're good.
If he gets 18 points, I'd be content.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Carson Hocevar?
Oh my God, we're going here.
Well, he got his first career win last year at Texas. Granted, that truck race was wild. To give you some perspective, Chase Purdy finished second. Jake Garcia finished fifth. Haley Deegan finished sixth. So that kind of gives you an idea of like how much carnage and chaos was needed. Nick Sanchez led
Talladega, to be honest.
Yeah, Nick Sanchez led 168 laps from the pole, but ended up finishing 16th. It was a wild race, but it was a first win for Hocevar, and it did kind of open up the dam a little bit because he collected a few more. But had a good run last week. Was top 15 at Vegas, with 8 fastest laps, and I don't know. I don't hate it necessarily.
I don't hate it as much as I did 3 minutes ago when you brought the name up.
Oh, all right. That's called persuasion.
It is. It is.
It's also called peer pressure.
That's
sometimes
true.
Sometimes you give into it, kids.
There's two ways to look. He's either persuasive or he's just bullying me into playing Carson.
Next, let's talk Matt on to Harrison Burton.
No.
There's no hope for Harrison Burton.
That guy shouldn't even be in a cup car anymore. Like,
let's see.
You sucked at your team's home track. Martinsville's literally 12 miles from the shop.
Harrison Burton's last 5 performances on DraftKings: 10 points, -1, 9, -7, and 12. Oh, and 11 if we go all the way back to Vegas.
Yeah, and if you go to Daytona, he
yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it's not been great for Harrison Burton.
And that's a good car.
It can be. Ryan Blaney was the last driver to win in it.
I still think Matt DiBenedetto could do more in it.
Maybe.
Like, if you just
a schmuck.
Yeah, take the politics out of it. Like, Matt DiBenedetto is.
I'm not even talking politics. I'm just talking personal. Like, he's just a good old fashioned Guido, which is fine. But like.
But remember when he won over the heart of America, Matt, when he cried after Bristol?
That's because he was beating Denny Hamlin. And anybody would take a winner over Denny Hamlin. I mean, if he was beating Chase, I'm not so sure that anybody would want that guy to win.
It was a good underdog story at the time.
At the time, yeah. Okay. I think we've sufficiently beaten Texas to death.
You know what's weird is like this was the one podcast I was not looking forward to. Like, and this is probably the most fun we've had on one.
These are the ones that usually do this.
Yeah. This race sucks so much. Let's make it as fun as possible.
Yeah, basically. I do have my betting piece up on Fantasy Alarm. You can check that out. I'll highlight some guys. William Byron plus 700. We talked about him. There's some other, like Denny is also tied with him at plus 700. He's pretty interesting to me too. Ross Chastain, you can find him. When I wrote him up, he was plus 1,800. Now he's plus 1,600. So I guess some people.
It's not bad, actually. I would still take him at plus 16, even though we kind of just dumped on him on the podcast.
Yeah. Keselowski's 30-1.
Where, by the way?
BetMGM, he is 30-1.
That's solid.
Also, it's Caesars, it looks like, and he's 28-1 on DK. So, yeah, there's that. You want a long? I mean, we're talking long shots.
This is not the track for long shots.
It's not, but you liked Daniel Suarez, right?
I could lean into this, though. Yeah.
He is 80-1 at BetMGM. Eric Jones, who, like I said, was running second last year.
Like, that's not a full unit bet. That's like a quarter unit, maybe even like a tenth of a unit. Yeah.
Eric Jones is 75-1 at Caesars.
That's pretty fun.
So, again, not a track for long shots. I have more favorites than I normally do. I do want to get your opinion on this matchup that I wrote up. I wrote up Kyle Larson versus William Byron.
I would go Byron.
Byron is plus 115 at DK.
I would take the plus money.
The shortest odds on Larson is 140. Like, Byron's beating him every single time in the next gen car.
There's a part of me that saw that Byron won last week, and I started having this on. Like, is Byron just like the most well-rounded driver in the series right now?
He might be. That iRacing coming in.
He can. It's phenomenal that he can win on any style of track.
Yeah, I think if he gets a win on an intermediate, they're just going to shut it down and go into testing mode like they did last year.
That's a good call.
He jumped out the gate and like was dominating, and then he disappeared, and everybody's like, "What happened?" They were testing stuff for the playoffs, and then the playoffs came, and he showed back up.
Yeah,
like
I would hate to see that happen because I I'd love to see him get like 10 wins in a year.
Yeah, somebody asked if this was going to be like because Denny's won like 3 times this year.
Denny's won twice.
And Byron's won 3 times?
Yeah.
So, like, people are wondering if this is going to be the year where, like, Harvick and Hamlin went and won, like, 19 combined.
But that was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I loved that.
Yeah. And then Harvick didn't make the championship.
I hated that.
Yeah, that was
if I'm being honest.
We had a very long discussion on the pod on that one. Real quick, we'll do some top 10s. Actually, I was shocked to get plus money on this top 5. Byron is going off at plus 120 for a top 5.
That's stupid.
It's Caesars.
That's stupid.
Larson is the only one in negative money. He's minus 130 for a top 5 at BetMGM.
I don't even know if I would take that.
I don't know either. Man, he was in Indy testing Indy cars earlier this week. For top 10, I found some interesting top 10 ones. Keselowski's even money for a top 10.
What's Briscoe?
Briscoe is plus 260 at DK for a top 10.
I would get that.
He is actually longer. Both Suarez and Jones are plus 200 on DK for top 10s. Briscoe is plus 260.
I would jump on Briscoe.
And then Keselowski is plus 100. Buescher, for some odd reason, is also plus 100. I'm not doing that.
No.
Kez at plus 100, though. Even money on Kez. Yeah, so there's some interesting. I don't know if I have any long shot top 10 bets this week, like I did last week, that didn't really work out. But yeah,
I can't believe we have a 47-minute podcast on Texas.
We do. It was.
Oh my God! How did we do it?
Because you're going delusional from lack of sleep, and
it's true.
I like to ramble sometimes.
It's all right. You're informative.
That's what happens. We're using all of our so we have an allotted amount of minutes, right? We're using more this week instead of next week for Talladega, where it's like throw a dart at a dartboard.
Yeah, but next week's so much fun for betting. Like next week should be a betting podcast.
We're gonna do a lot of betting talk next week because there's gonna be some wild top 10s.
Good. All right. Well, Matt, go ahead.
It'll probably be fairly short because short odds on top 10s because sportsbooks figured out that's not the place to give people long shots on top 10s.
Okay, so maybe you pivot off the top 10s and you just start betting like manufacturer.
That's true. We can talk about that. Yeah, you can't parlay top 10s anymore either because somebody had to go and ruin that.
I wouldn't say they ruined that, rather than just exposing the flaw within FanDuel's betting system. Like that was just a great parlay that.
Also on a free bet, which is an all-time free bet.
Yeah, like turned a $12 free bet into $1 million.
Yeah,
we all wish we could be that guy.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of jealousy. Well, it clearly wasn't Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. We know that.
No, it was not. Nor the guy from the Jaguars.
True.
Right. Well, Matt, yeah. Thank you so much for your time this week. Long show for Texas. I can't believe it. But best of luck to you for Sunday's race, and best of luck to the FA Nation.
Best of luck, FA Nation.